Hello, Queen Creek Elementary patriots and patriot parents. I hope you enjoy this presentation as much as I did. I want you to take a moment, and as you look into the faces of our amazing students in this video, you will see an abundance of goodness and hope. We feel so fortunate to be Americans. Our lives have been incredibly blessed by the sacrifices of men and women who served in the military since the founding of this great nation. This short video has been produced to honor all the veterans and those presently serving in the military, the first responders, and all of those military people that we appreciate so much. We are so delighted to share it with you. Have a great day.
We welcome you to the 2020 American Leadership Academy's Veterans Day Parade and Ceremony, wherever you are viewing this recorded event. My name is Timmy Standage, Student Body President, and I will be your host. Our guest speakers, Sean McGonigal and Daniel Smith, have pre-recorded a message for us.
As we celebrate Veterans on Veterans Day, I feel honored to be standing up here in front of so many people who are interested in honoring our veterans. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Mrs. Smith. I have had the privilege the past 5 years of working here at ALA. What a lot of you may not know is that I spent 5 years serving our country in the Army National Guard. I decided to join the Army shortly after 9/11 happened. I felt the pull to serve and protect our great nation after these tragic events. The job that I chose to do while serving in the Army was one that I thought would be fun and something I wouldn't do in the civilian world. I chose to be a heavy equipment operator. This means that I got to operate bulldozers, scrapers, and bucket loaders, just to name a few. During my time in the service, I deployed to Iraq for Operation Iraqi Freedom for 12 months during 2004 to 2005. While there, my unit helped with many base improvement projects, as well as paving 80 miles of the main supply route. During my service in Iraq, I was awarded the Combat Action Badge and the Army Accommodation Medal. Being able to serve my country helped me to have a strong sense of patriotism. When you think about patriotism, what are the images that come to your mind? Do you think of soldiers serving their country, or perhaps the American flag waving? For me, I think of the images of the soldiers that I served alongside, as well as the people in my life that have also served their country. Many of these individuals loved our country so much that they made the ultimate sacrifice and gave their lives to protect what they held so dear. The definition of patriotism is devotion to and vigorous support for one's country. How can you show your patriotism every day to those around you, especially on Veterans Day? Easy ways that you can show your patriotism is to proudly fly our stars and stripes and make sure that you thank our veterans for their service no matter what day of the year it is. We are so lucky to attend a school that values patriotism so much and shares a lot of the same values that the military instills in its soldiers. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.
Good morning, American Leadership Academy Elementary School. It is an honor to be able to speak to you today. I am sad that I was not able to meet with you face to face, as I have been a fan of the Veterans Day celebration at this school for the past 3 years since we moved to Queen Creek. I have been inspired each year by both the students and the teachers and your commitment to our great country and the principles of individual liberty and accountability that the United States was founded upon. I want you to know that I love this country, and that is actually one of the reasons that I decided to join the Army many years ago. My father and both of my grandfathers had served in the Army, so there was a tradition of military service in my family, but my parents did not push me to join the military. As a young man, I had always had a fascination with flying, and I thought I wanted to be a pilot. Well, to make a long story short, I accepted the opportunity to go to flight school for the Army. Flight training was not easy, but as the E in your raised values indicates, I tried for excellence in everything that I did. I worked really hard and I studied for my academic classes and also for my flight classes. And it paid off. I learned the emergency procedures, I learned the checklists, and I learned how to fly helicopters. That's the first point that I want to make to you today. Learning new skills is not always easy. But I have never had an experience where I put in extra effort and did my best and I regretted it. It didn't always work out the way that I wanted, but I never regretted putting in the extra effort to do a good job. So make a commitment to be a lifelong learner and always give your best. After being in the military for 16 years, I had become an experimental test pilot in the Army. I was given the opportunity to go back and fly the oldest flying aircraft in the Navy inventory. It was a U-6 Beaver. Now, the U-6 Beaver is not a fancy airplane. It's an old airplane that was built in the 1950s. It flies relatively slow and has a very simple mechanical control system. But it is anything but simple to learn to fly, and I had never flown an airplane like this. My flight in the Beaver provided many valuable lessons that I want to relate to you today, and some of those lessons apply in our lives. The flight began, as many others, and that was with a briefing. There at the briefing was a much older, experienced pilot. He was in his 60s. I was in my 30s. And he taught me the basic principles of the aircraft, and he explained some of the qualities that the aircraft had to help keep us safe, but also so that we would have an enjoyable flight. I needed to have respect for this older, more senior instructor pilot who had experience in this airplane. I also needed to have respect for this older airplane. In your life, you have teachers, you have your parents, and others who can mentor you and teach you, and you need to have respect for them and the advice that they give. After our briefing, this older pilot helped me get into the aircraft, and we eventually took off and began flying. I spent the first few minutes flying this older aircraft just being observant, looking at the behaviors that the aircraft had as I made different control inputs. And one of the first things that I noticed is that when I tried to turn the aircraft using the wheel, I would turn the aircraft and the wings would turn, but then the nose would go the opposite direction. And I immediately was curious about this. And I knew that as we came into land, you make a lot of little small corrections, and this might be a problem later when I wanted to land. This also has a principle that can be applied to our lives, in that you need to be observant. Often, we are so busy and so want to be in charge that we don't take time to observe how our actions affect others. And so, like respect, you need to be observant, and sometimes you just need to be quiet and listen and watch how your actions affect others and how their actions affect you. As you do this, you'll learn to better react and know how to make the adjustments in your own life to be successful. So after flying around for a little while and observing the airplane, it was time to go and try a landing. Now, the Beaver is, again, a simple airplane, has a little small tail wheel and big wheels up front. And that landing an airplane with a small tail wheel, you can get into trouble with what's called a ground loop if you don't stay lined up with the runway. As I came into land, I was very nervous, and I told the other pilot, please make sure you monitor me. Don't let us get into trouble. And he assured me that he was not going to let us crash. As I came down, lined up on the final, I tried to stay very lined up on the center of the runway. That would give me the most room to deviate in case I had a problem as I was coming in. It also gave me a good reference point to make my steering corrections as I came down. Now remember, I told you every time I turned the wheel a little bit one way or the other, the nose went the opposite direction, and I had to correct that with the pedals. I found myself working very hard to try to keep the airplane lined up on final. As I came closer and closer to the runway, I was making much quicker and smaller inputs, trying to keep the aircraft from making too big of a turn right at the last minute. As the airplane touched down, the tail wheel was still flying, and I had to continue to still make inputs to the flight controls, even though the main wheels were on the ground, and keep flying all the way to the land. Now, this also has a couple of principles that I want to relate. In your life, it's best to keep on the path. Keep on that center line, because as you make small mistakes, and we all make mistakes, we all are going to deviate from the path that we intended, but you can make those corrective actions quickly, and you can see when you're getting off path if you're lined up on the center line. So make sure that you have a course that you're trying to go, and as you do that, you're lined up on that center line in your life, and you can make those quick little corrections that will keep you out of harm's way. The other thing is you have to keep going. Sometimes it's going to get difficult, and it's going to look a little bit scary, but you have to, like I did, keep flying the airplane all the way to the ground. And the same thing is true in your life. You're going to make mistakes, you're going to fail a test, or you're going to forget to do a homework assignment. But even when you do those things, you have to keep working and applying yourself and doing your best. And as you do, you will grow, you will get better, and you will succeed. In closing, I want to let you know that you can accomplish great things as you respect and learn from those around you, as you try to do your best and strive for excellence in all you do, and as you make small corrections and stay lined up on that center line, you too can have success. These principles helped me out as an officer in the Army. They have also helped me out greatly in my life as a husband and as a father and as a citizen of this great country. I want to thank you again for allowing me to be with you today on this Veterans Day, and I look forward to being with you again in person.
Please rise for the national anthem.
Stream.
standing and join with our Vice President Luke Hamilton for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We would like to recognize all of the men and women who have served in every branch of our armed forces. We would begin with the National Guard.
The next song is traditionally played at a military's funeral. We listen to Mr. Christian Paulson play taps to remember all those men and women who have served in defense of our great nation, who paid in blood for what the freedoms that we enjoy every day. What they accomplished in service should always be remembered.
would like to thank our soloists, Boston Stewart, 3rd grade, Andrew Watson, 5th grade, Emmy Goodwin, 6th grade, and Paige Dickerson, 2nd grade, for their soloists in We Give Thanks. We would also like to thank Stephen Trejo and all of the ALA administration for allowing us this opportunity to share with you. We now conclude the ceremony. Thank you for attending our virtual Veterans Day ceremony.